What's up, you guys? It's your girl Kenzo for Life here. And today we're going to be talking about the 5 reasons Black Ops 7 will disappoint you. Remember the glory days of Black Ops 2? The game that, for many of us, was the absolute peak of Call of Duty? That's the exact feeling Activision is trying to sell you for the next installment. They're banking on you hearing the name Black Ops and pre ordering out of a pure, unfiltered nostalgia. Let's pump the brakes and have a real talk. Because once you look past the slick marketing, there are 5 massive red flags that suggest this glorious comeback we are all hoping for might just be a carefully planned disappointment. Let's be honest. The second we heard that the 2025 Call of Duty would be a direct sequel to Black Ops 2, a part of us got excited. They know how powerful that name is. It's a promise of return to glory. But in today's gaming world, and especially with this franchise, a promise from Activision can feel about as valuable as a loot box with 3 duplicate sprays. The hype is a smokescreen, and when you start digging, a much bleaker picture forms. This isn't just about 1 or 2 little problems. It's a pattern of creative burnout, playing it safe, and maybe a fundamental misunderstanding of what made the old games so special. So today, we're breaking down the biggest 5 reasons why the next Black Ops, the game meant to be a legendary comeback, is already on track to let us all down. The first and most glaring red flag is the game's entire premise. According to numerous reports and leaks, the next Call of Duty is a direct sequel to Black Ops 2, picking up with David Mason in 2030. On paper, this sounds amazing, fan service at its best. Finally, we get to see what happens next. But what it really signals is a franchise that's terrified of taking a single new step. So it's just strip mining its own past for ideas. This isn't a bold new chapter. It feels more like a reunion tour. Instead of building new worlds and forging new legends, the go-to strategy is to reboot, remake, and now create direct sequels to games that are well over a decade old. This isn't about honoring the past. It's about exploiting it. It's a cynical bet that your fond memories from 2012 are strong enough to make you overlook a lack of genuine creativity in 2025. And there are already some troubling signs. Leaks from inside sources have painted a concerning picture of the campaign's development, with one prominent leaker claiming to have heard from sources that the single player is terrible. While we have to take any leak with a grain of salt, it's worrying, especially when paired with other rumors suggesting it may follow the widely criticized open world mission format of Modern Warfare 3. Are we really getting a thoughtful continuation of Mason's story? Or just a hollow echo designed by a committee to cash in on a beloved name? We've walked these paths before. By refusing to innovate narratively, they're risking making the universe feel smaller, not larger. Okay, so the story might be a rehash, but surely the gameplay is where they're pushing things forward, right? Well, not exactly. The official word is that the game will feature an evolution of Omni movement, the system introduced in Black Ops 6. But here's the catch. Developers have also made it clear that we shouldn't expect advanced movement mechanics like jetpacks. The very things that made games like Black Ops 3 feel so dynamic are off the table. This feels like the core of Call of Duty's innovation problem. For years, the franchise has been stuck. When they try something truly new, like the advanced movement in Advanced Warfare, a loud part of the community pushes back. So, what happens? The developers retreat to the safest, most familiar formula possible. The result is a series that feels trapped in its own comfort zone, too afraid to make a move that might alienate even a tiny fraction of its massive audience. This evolution of omni movement is a perfect example. It sounds cool and forward thinking, but it's really just a marketing term for more of the same, but a little different. It's a fresh coat of paint on an old engine designed to create the illusion of progress without taking the risk of real change. For us, the players, this leads to stagnation. The game will probably feel fine, but the core way to interact with the world will be largely the same, leaving you with a $70 experience that feels eerily similar to the one you just played last year. Look, if you're already feeling that sense of deja vu and you appreciate this kind of honest breakdown, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you want to stay ahead of the hype and get more critical takes on the games you actually care about, make sure you subscribe. It really does go a long way. Now, let's talk about the heart of the game for millions: multiplayer and zombies. The campaign is a nice little side dish, but these modes are where we spend hundreds of hours, and unfortunately, all signs are pointing to them being the most formulaic parts of the entire package. For multiplayer, the widespread expectation is still that it will simply carry forward most of the systems from Black Ops 6 with minimal changes. We're not talking about a revolutionary new take on COD. We're talking about a content pack. New maps, new guns, but the same core experience. The situation with zombies is even more concerning for long-term fans. While a return to classic round-based gameplay is a welcome headline, the rumors swirling around it are less encouraging. Leaks strongly suggest that the mode may lean heavily on reusing content, with chatter about a potential remake of the Black Ops 2 map Transit already making the rounds. While nostalgia is nice, the community is right to be skeptical, especially if new maps just end up being repurposed sections of a battle royale map instead of the unique handcrafted zombies experiences that made the mode famous. It's an issue that's popped up for years and it just feels cheap. The impact is predictability. You basically know what you're getting. You'll get a few good multiplayer maps, a few duds, and a zombies mode that feels achingly familiar. It'll be fun for a while. It'll be addictive for a while. But it almost certainly won't be surprising. This all leads to a bigger, more philosophical problem. What even is a Black Ops game anymore? What makes it different from modern warfare? The lines have blurred so much, they're practically gone. The franchise is facing an identity crisis where its sub-brands are just marketing tools. not signs of a unique creative vision. Think about it. We are getting a Black Ops game released directly after another Black Ops game, a first for the series. This isn't because of some new epic two-part story that demands to be told. It's because the names Modern Warfare and Black Ops are the franchise's two golden geese. And Activision seems determined to just alternate between them, whether it makes creative sense or not. The strategy isn't about which studio has the best idea. It's about which brand name's turn it is. This cycle has trapped the series. Any attempt to launch a new IP, like Ghosts or Advanced Warfare, was met with a shaky reception, causing the publisher to run right back to the safety of its two main pillars. This created a self-fulfilling prophecy where only Modern Warfare and Black Ops are seen as viable. So, they get all the resources, strangling any chance for a new idea to grow. For us, the promise of variety is gone. You're no longer choosing between different takes on Call of Duty. You're choosing between two flavors that are starting to taste more and more alike every year. Finally, we have to talk about the elephant in the room: the relentless, unforgiving annual release schedule. This game is slated for late 2025, just 1 year after Black Ops 6 launched in October 2024. This immediately raises massive concerns about a rushed development cycle. This isn't just speculation. We've seen how this story ends time and time again. It leads to content bloat, massive file sizes, and persistent balancing issues, especially within Warzone. There just isn't enough time for a studio, even one as talented as Treyarch, to meaningfully innovate, polish, and debug a game of this size in a 12-month window. This business model practically encourages a release now, patch later attitude, where games are launched in a half-baked state with the expectation that huge problems would just be fixed over the next few months. This has become the new normal for the franchise, and it's a raw deal for consumers, paying a premium price for what is, by its very nature, an incomplete product. The annual cycle is a machine that's burning out its developers and its fans. It leaves no room for creativity to breathe and no time for genuine breakthroughs. It guarantees that each new game will be an iteration, not a revolution. And with this next release, we're seeing the logical conclusion of that process. A game that feels destined to be a content update instead of a true sequel, a product of a schedule, not inspiration. So when you put it all together, what do you get? You get a game leaning on a recycled story because it's afraid to tell a new one. You have gameplay that calls tiny tweaks and evolution while rejecting the bold mechanics fans have been asking for. You have multiplayer and zombies modes that are shaping up to be more of the same, selling us familiarity instead of excitement. And all of this is happening inside a franchise that's losing its identity and buckling under a release schedule that values quantity over quality. These 5 issues all point to the same conclusion. Call of Duty seems to be a franchise that's just out of creative gas. It's a titan of the industry, but it's a tired titan, moving forward out of momentum, not passion. The return to the world of Black Ops 2 isn't the glorious comeback we're all hoping for. It feels like a calculated business decision designed to cash in on our nostalgia for one more profitable year. The real question is this a model we want to keep supporting? One that delivers less innovation and more repetition every single year? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And until next time, you guys, stay frosty.